Hello, good afternoon, and welcome to the Madani's on 3FM 92.7. My name is Beatrice Adu. The news is also live on Kasmi 107.1 FM and across the country at asrinews.com. Coming up in the next 30 minutes. President John Mahama is set to convene an emergency cabinet meeting tomorrow to address the operational and financial crisis in Ghana's cocoa sector. Also on the program this afternoon, Transparency International links Ghana's 2025 Corruption Perception Index score of 43 to the recent removal of the Chief Justice and the discontinuation of corruption cases involving members of the governing NDC. Much later on the program, an Accra High Court has dismissed an application by former Deputy Executive Director of National Service Authority Gifty Owari seeking to hold her trial and refer constitutional issues to the Supreme Court. Thank you very much for joining us this afternoon. Now, President John Mahama has called an emergency cabinet meeting for Wednesday, February 11, 2026, to address the deepening crisis in Ghana's cocoa sector. The meeting was announced by the Minister of State in charge of Government Communications, Felix Kwakye-Ofosu, in a Facebook post on Tuesday, February 10, 2026. That's today. The decision comes amid growing concerns over delayed payments to cocoa farmers and mounting financial pressures across the cocoa value chain. The minority in Parliament has criticized both government and the Ghana Cocoa Board over their handling of the situation. Isaac Yawopoku is the ranking member on Parliament Food, Agriculture and Cocoa Affairs Committee.
Farmers have tended their farms through harsh weather. They have spent huge resources to control pests and diseases. They have toiled to harvest their farms and sold it to the government in good faith. Yet, months later, they are still waiting for weeks on end to be paid. Is this the resetting which was promised the good people of Ghana, or the reversing of the cocoa industry? Farmers are asking. Ladies and gentlemen of the press, it is not only the poor farmer who is suffering. The failings of government and cocoa board are also hurting the cocoa buying companies, that is the LBCs, and transporters, especially the indigenous companies and local enterprises. By delaying in repayment of cocoa taken over from the LBCs, these business and investments are at risk. They have their working capitals locked up, their progress hindered, and financing confidence undermined. Contrary to what the NDC preached pre-election time, to promote indigenous business and investments, they have rather reset to kill indigenous companies, businesses, and enterprises in the cocoa industry. We call on government and cocoa board to pay our cocoa farmers immediately for all cocoa beans sold and to be sold to save the cocoa industry from slipping back to days of despondency and loss of interest. We demand an apology from government and cocoa board for this gross dereliction of duty. Cocoa board must reimburse the LBCs of all outstanding repayments of cocoa purchased and delivered, and must also ensure the prompt repayment of subsequent deliveries and CTORs to avoid the recurrence of this despicable situation in the future. We demand that our cherished cocoa farmers are treated better and with dignity.
And you had the Isaac Yawopoku, who is a ranking member on Parliament Food, Agriculture and Cocoa Committee. And very shortly, we'll be speaking to our Presidential Affairs correspondent. But the Cocoa Board Chief Executive Officer, Dr. Ransford Abbey, has given the apology the minority asked for He's actually apologized to cocoa farmers, saying the board is exploring alternative financing arrangements aimed at ensuring long-term stability in the cocoa sector.
And the issue has to do with the fact that the buyers currently find our cocoa too expensive at this point, as compared to how much it's being sold in other jurisdictions. And so whether you're talking about our neighbors or other cocoa producing countries, we have had to now come in and use high-priced cocoa to be servicing the 2,600 dollar contract that they sold this cocoa for. The truth of the matter is that we all appreciate where the issues are today. And it is also linked to the funding model that we inherited as a result of the break in the syndication because of the financial mess that Cocoa Board found itself in. So it is quite a delicate situation. We appreciate all the issues that are being raised, but we're also working assiduously to find a solution to mop up what is left there. All I would ask is that they exercise a bit of patience. The Honorable Minister of Finance, the board of Cocoa Board and the management are working to find a way out of this situation. I don't think that it will be too long. I think that, we have definitely demonstrated that we have these farmers at heart.
And you heard the CEO of the Ghana Cocoa Board, Dr. Ransford Abe. Now, the emergency cabinet meeting is expected to focus on government interventions to address liquidity constraints, restore confidence among farmers, and stabilize the cocoa value chain. Let's bring in Presidential Affairs correspondent Komla Kluche, who joins us live on the phone. Komla, if you can tell us more about this emergency cabinet meeting, what have you gathered so far?
Well, the issues that have been raised by the farmers, the opposition MPP or the minority, and also the responses that have been coming from Cocoa Board itself is what has attracted the president to summon the emergency cabinet meeting to deal with this. Mind you, cabinet meetings are often held on Thursday, but because of the magnitude of the problem regarding the welfare of cocoa farmers, the backbone of this economy, the president gives it heat that the meeting would be given the necessary cabinet attention, which is the highest decision making when it comes to government, so that they could find a lasting solution to it. It boils down to financing. It boils down to how monies will be raised and would be paid to the cocoa farmers. So in that meeting, especially we do expect the Minister for Finance, I'm certain probably the Cocoa Board themselves will also be in the meeting because it borders on them to see how best they will find lasting solution to this matter. It is not open or will not be open to the media. The expectation, however, is that we would get a communication after they are done with the meeting tomorrow.
Indeed. Thank you very much, Komla Kluche. He's our Presidential Affairs correspondent. So what do stakeholders make of this very meeting coming up tomorrow? Let's bring in Beatrice Adu, who is coordinator of the Ghana Civil Society Cocoa Platform. Good afternoon to you, sir. It's great to have you. Thank you for joining us.
All right, thank you for having me, Beatrice.
How significant is this emergency cabinet meeting, and really what concrete outcomes should Ghanaians realistically expect from it?
Well, I will start by saying that it is the right direction that the cabinet has taken this matter up. It is a bit late because we expect that the Cocoa Board and then the board chairman of the Cocoa Board will be updating cabinet and the presidency of the happenings. If cabinet takes a decision, or the president takes a decision to have a cabinet meeting based on sentiments from the media, from farmers and all that, then that for me is not proper governance. But having said, the short-term measure is that now we have a liquidity problem. We need money to pay farmers term proposals that will raise funds. We don't know whether from the Bank of Ghana, whether from the international community or wherever, that they will raise funds to be able to pay the license buying companies immediately for them to also pay the farmers. Then we also expect that the cabinet will discuss the problem, what brought about the problem, and how in the long term, they can put steps in place to avert any further happenings like this in future. So those are our expectations.
Now, having said that, though, do you see the current payment delays as a liquidity challenge, really, a governance failure, or perhaps a deeper structural problem within the cocoa sector?
Well, this is a symptom of an inherent problem within the cocoa sector. It's unfortunate that Dr. Randy Adu has inherited it. I say inherited because we know that there were problems existing before he took over, but I would also quickly add that they have also compounded the problem based on the choices and decisions that they made. We know about the rollover, over 300,000 metric tons rollover from 2 years ago, but there were also clear indications in the market through speculation that prices will drop. So what did the cocoa marketing company do? Why did they not sign the contracts in advance? Why did they not sell the beans in advance? Why did they wait for the prices to drop, for the buyers to refuse to pay for this problem to arise? So it's a combination of issues, but ultimately it's a liquidity problem. There is no money. They couldn't go to syndication. The buyers are also refusing to pay because our cocoa price is a bit higher, and it has all compounded to the problem within the sector. So I can't put a blame on one administration, but it is an inherent challenge that has existed for years, and we need long-term plans and solutions to prevent future occurrences.
All right, we'll have to end it here. Thank you very much, Mr. Obed Owusu-Adai, for speaking to us.
You're welcome, Beatrice.
And Obed Owusu-Adai is coordinator of the Ghana Civil Society Cocoa Platform. Thank you so much for sharing your views with us. Now, the dismissal of the former Chief Justice Gertrude Arabe Sabata-Konu, the filing of multiple petitions seeking the removal of heads of independent state institutions, and the discontinuation of corruption cases involving members of the governing NDC have all been cited as factors contributing to Ghana's underwhelming performance on the Corruption Perceptions Index. That assessment follows Ghana's latest score, 43 out of 100, on the 2025 Corruption Perceptions Index released by Transparency International Ghana. The score suggests that Ghana continues to grapple with persistent corruption, weak enforcement of legal and policy frameworks, and fragile state institutions tasked with fighting corruption. Now, Ghana has largely stagnated on the index, maintaining a score of 43 since 2020 before slipping further to 42 in 2024, highlighting a worrying lack of sustained progress. I'm joined in the studio now by my colleague, Grace Hamwa-Juman, who's gone through the details provided by Transparency International. Grace, first of all, Ghana's average score on the index and how we have performed over the years still remains at 43, right?
Yes, Beatrice. The only time we made some progress was in 2014 when we came to 48 out of the 100. But since then, it's been only around the 43. So 182 countries were ranked. 182 countries were ranked, and Ghana came 76th, the 76th place. When you add it up together, it gives us 43 out of 100. We've always been around the 43 percentage, and have remained there since 2020. Like I said, it was only in 2014 that we moved to 48 out of the 100.
Now, we're learning that the brouhaha surrounding the former Chief Justice and petitions surrounding that contributed to this. Aside from these, what other factors do we know contributed to our current score?
So TI, or Transparency International, mentions weak law enforcement and anti-corruption policies. Those policies in the country are very weak. We're unable to enforce them very well. They also talk about weak state institutions fighting corruption. We already have the institutions there, but they are weak. They are not able to go deeper when it comes to probing these cases of corruption. And so that is another thing they mentioned. And then politicization of our justice system, and then erosion of democratic checks and balances. You have a situation where institution A is at fault. When B wants to check, they say I'm autonomous, I have my own powers, you can't interfere in what I do and all of that. So that is another reason why we are unable to score that much on the Corruption Perception Index.
And I believe the Transparency International gives some recommendations moving forward?
Yes, they lauded Ghana for the creation of the Office of the Special Prosecutor and some of the work it decided to do in 2025. But it also says that if we want to go higher on the index, then first we must again support the Office of the Special Prosecutor. And last year, there was a lot of talk about the work the OSP does. In fact, while people were saying it was not working and it began to work, people were also saying, now you're doing too much, now we don't see what you're doing and all of that.
Well, the OSP also did very well promoting itself and highlighting what it was doing.
Exactly. So TI says that if we want to score more, we should allow the OSP work, we should give it room and give them the support that they need. They also mentioned sustained institutional reforms. We should make sure that maybe year on, we are restructuring our institutions, we are appointing new people, we are empowering the old people, that we are giving them money, the tools and the resources they need to be able to function very well.
Thank you very much, Grace Hamwajim, and my colleague bring us details of the Transparency International's latest score on the Corruption Perceptions Index. Ghana remains on 43, and we'll bring you some more later. Indeed, speak to the fundraising manager at Transparency International very shortly. But whilst we wait to do that, the Accra High Court has dismissed an application by former Deputy Director of the National Service Authority, Gift Yowari Mensah, referring her case to the Supreme Court. Presiding Judge Audrey Kuvi Tay held that the application lacked merit. Lawyers of the embattled former NSA Deputy Director were seeking an interpretation of a provision in the Practice Direction on Disclosure and Case Management Proceedings, as well as the 1992 Constitution. The court had previously ordered her to file the list of her witnesses and their names during the case management conference. Gift Yowari Mensah is facing charges of causing financial loss to the tune of 33 million Ghana cedis in relation to the National Service Goods Names scandal. She has pleaded not guilty to a count of stealing 2 counts of willfully causing financial loss to the Republic, a count each of using public office for profit and money laundering, and has been granted bail. Lord Edwasare is our court affairs correspondent. He joins us live on the phone. Lord, what more can you tell us?
Well, Beatrice, and a quick correction there. The judge's name is Audrey Kokuvi Tay. Right. Now, as far as Gitawari is concerned, her arguments in court for which reason as the lawyers to proceed to the Supreme Court was that she indicated that per the practice direction of the court, asking her to disclose the list of the names and addresses of her witnesses contravenes what the 1992 Constitution provides for, indicating that she is assumed innocent until proven guilty. And so this was the part that she was indicating that they were inconsistent with each other and sought interpretation at the Supreme Court. Now, the presiding judge in the matter indicated that their reasoning was unmeritorious and then dismissed that application. After that, her lawyers again indicated that they had filed a notice of appeal against the order requiring her to provide the list of her witnesses at the Court of Appeal. And so they were praying for the court to stay proceedings until the determination of that appeal at the Court of Appeal. And so the case has been adjourned for the court to determine or rule on the application to stay proceedings pending that appeal that they have filed against the order by the courts. So that's basically the update on the former Deputy Director of the National Service Authority, Beatrice.
Thank you very much, Lord Edwasare. He's our court affairs correspondent. Let's return to our earlier story about the score of Ghana as regards the Transparency International's Corruption Perceptions Index. I'm joined on the line now by Michael Bwedi. He's fundraising manager of Transparency International, and he's got some more details for us. Good afternoon to you, sir. Thank you so much for joining us.
Yeah, good afternoon, and good afternoon to your listeners.
The report says the removal of the former Chief Justice and termination of ongoing prosecution of former appointees of the NDC are among many reasons. Why Ghana still, isn't making any significant improvement in the ranking? Can you explain to us really how this conclusion came about?
Very well. So, the corruption perception index is a perception indices. Now, what happens is that they normally would take some governance issues. So every year, certain governance issues are weighted, and the score is used. Now, let's this year we use the Transparency International use the independence of the judiciary. They use civic space. They use integrity of public office and the like. That is what informed the score. Now, so then you come back home and ask yourself, what are the issues relative to independence of the judiciary? The manner in which the Chief Justice was removed was key. How would this shape or inform the perception of citizens as to the integrity of governance and in Ghana? Yes, it will. So therefore, citizens are likely to perceive that, look, the fight against corruption is not making the desired progress as we wanted. Oral, people greeted Oral with a lot of hope and anticipation. The whole of 2025, very little was ahead of Oral. Does that encourage citizens to think that we are making progress with the fight against corruption? No. Oral, to many Ghanaians, had created a lot of dissonance. That is in the minds of Ghanaians. Then let's talk about civic space. I'm sure the issue about the issue of institutions, public institutions denying citizens rights to information is countless. I can't list them. Day in and out, it is reported about the Right to Information Commission fining organizations for denying citizens or citizens the right to information. When this persists, people ask the question, what do these institutions have to hide? That also informs perception of corruption. So a number of happenings within the year of under review informs the perception of corruption in the country.
We'll have to end it here because of time, but thank you very much, Mr. Boadi, for speaking to us. Michael Boadi, he is the fundraising manager for Transparency International. Let's go to the Ashanti region now, where the Ministry of Roads and Highways' decision to review the design of the 4-tier Swami interchange has sparked strong reactions, particularly from the Ashanti minority caucus in Parliament. While the minister maintains that the redesign will incorporate an outer ring road to reflect new developments within the Greater Kumasi metropolitan area, the minority MPs insist the move represents a major setback for both Kumasi and national development. Amid the growing debate, residents and road users are also weighing in on what the changes could mean for traffic, business and daily life in the city. Ibrahim Abubakar is Ashanti regional correspondent. He joins us live on the line. Ibrahim, I know you've been interacting with people. You've also gone to the project site as well. If you can tell us the current state of the Swami Interchange project.
Well, Beatrice, I can tell you that for several months, no single work has been done here at the Swami Interchange project. It has remained in a dusty and abandoned state for, like I said, several months. In fact, traffic congestion on the stretch has even worsened significantly. A 5-minute drive will now take you 35-40 to 1 hour. And this is something that commuters are
not happy about at all. In fact, frustrated even for the prolonged delays, commuters and motorists have staged series of protests demanding the immediate resumption of the work. But as we speak, contractors are yet to resume to work. But we do know that the 4-tier Swami interchange project was originally scheduled to be completed somewhere in 2024, but work has stalled due to funding challenges. And following the change of government, this government made it clear that there is no available funds to be able to complete this work. And for that matter, just a few days ago, we saw the Minister of Roads announcing a review of the project design, scaling it down from the 4-tier interchange while introducing additional components which will add to the construction of the work.
Abubakar, can you tell us how residents and commuters are responding to this proposed redesign, as it were?
Well, Beatrice, although officials insist that not a single pesewa is being diverted from the original interchange project, and that even 3 billion Ghana cedis has instead been committed to the Outer Ring Road project, residents remain divided on this decision, because while some support the move to redesign and complete the project for them to be able to use it, others also hope that the original scope should be maintained, since it will be the first 4-tier interchange in the region. Let's listen to what some of them have been saying.
So why should we change it? If you know you have, you want to continue the way it started, but don't change it. A fan of 3, for that money that he have for now, and he think maybe that's what he have that he can do. No, he should hold that money and get loan and add it to complete the contract.
It is a buying in Susia or D can buy no. Na eye senko ye ne phone na say you know MPP aban no ekọ na change of government Friday aba nti aban no oba no ohwe bi a na ho odin no a na se 3 no no betimi aya yan de be san se 3 no onye wi
kwa menya kwa me bu nkotodwe abu nkotodwe akacha ya papa John Mahama se 3 no oye mutu kura ye de nase oye mutu a.
And I have some residents of Kumasi in the Ashanti region speaking about or sharing their views about the redesign of the Swami interchange. Earlier, you heard our Ashanti regional correspondent Ibrahim Abubakar giving us the current state of the project. Now, the customs officers at the Paga border who are doing overtime in the Upper East region have been overwhelmed by heavy traffic of trucks from Temahaba en route to Burkina Faso and Mali, who have virtually occupied the main Trans-ECOWAS highway and spaces within the Paga township. Fuel tankers, which constitute the majority of the transit vehicles, are yet to be cleared and pose danger to both humans and properties in Paga. Let's speak to our Upper East regional correspondent, Tanko Mohammed Rabiu, who is currently at the Paga area. He joins us live on the phone. Rabiu, we understand there is a serious traffic in Paga township because of the transit trucks towards the border. What's the situation now?
Okay, thank you very much. Yeah, the traffic situation in Paga Township is still the same, and then it's even becoming worse because a lot of the vehicles from the Tema Harbour are still arriving at the Paga border. So there's still much traffic because a lot of these trucks are yet to be cleared for them to pass through the Burkina side of the border. The reason is that, according to the custom officers here, they are saying that they are doing overtime. That is 24 hours, but the Burkina Faso side of the border, they are not doing 24 hours. So that brings about this traffic or this delay, because the more they delay, the more vehicles from the Tema Harbour arrive at the border.
All right, Rabiu, thank you very much for speaking to us. And Tanko Mohammed Rabiu is our Upper East regional correspondent, bringing us updates of the traffic situation at the Paga border area. That's it for the Midday News here on 3FM 92.7. My name is Beatrice Adu. Thank you very much for joining us this afternoon. Log on to 3news.com for more news.
Good afternoon. Welcome to Business Daily on 3FM 92.7. My name is Grace Hamwa Ajuman. Coming up, finance and tax analyst observes Treasury bill oversubscription signals rising investor confidence in Ghana.
Just a matter of confidence bouncing back into the Treasury bill market. Currently, the benchmark interest rate, the 91-day Treasury bill, is well above the inflation rate of 3.8%.
We'll hear from him shortly, and also experts urges policymakers to move away from a one-size-fits-all approach to exchange rate stability in favor of a tailored strategy for Ghana. And later, Ghana targets 180,000 hectares of coconut by 2028.
Today's farmer must think like an entrepreneur, planning carefully, adding value, and targeting better markets.
Details of these stories and more shortly. My name is Grace Hamwajiman. Many thanks for joining us. Let's begin the bulletin from here. Ghana's domestic money market is witnessing a significant resurgence as government treasury bills recorded their 6th consecutive oversubscription in the first 6 auctions of 2026. Finance and tax analyst Nelson Kujo-Kwagbeji has attributed this trend to a steady return of investor confidence in the Ghanaian economy. According to Kwagbeji, the robust demand for these short-term instruments is a direct result of improving macroeconomic indicators, which are creating a more favorable environment for domestic returns.
It is just a matter of confidence bouncing back into the Treasury bill market. Currently, the benchmark interest rate, the 91-day Treasury bill, is well above the inflation rate of 3.8%. Which means that investors who buy Treasury bill will have a real positive rate of return as compared to what happened in the past when inflation was actually over and above the 91-day Treasury bill rate. And so it is actually the rate that is pushing the investors, most especially institutional investors, to traffic more of their fund into the money market. Don't forget, when government was recording under subscription, investors were pushing their funds elsewhere, most especially on the stock market. However, now that the rates have reversed and the 91-day Treasury bill is well over, 10% and inflation is at 3.8%, anybody at all who invests in Treasury bill will have a positive real rate of return, and that is the motivation.
Finance and tax analyst Nelson Kujo-Kwagbeji there. To other stories as Ghana prepares to navigate its first year following the conclusion of its latest International Monetary Fund program. Prominent economist Professor Ejapoma Jeche-Daku has urged government to move beyond generic definitions of currency stability. The University of Ghana Business School Associate Professor emphasized that exchange rate management must be rooted in Ghana's unique economic structure. There's more in this following 3 business reports.
Professor Jeche-Daku argued that stability is not a one-size-fits-all concept. She noted that for a small open economy like Ghana, highly susceptible to commodity price shifts, policymakers must align their approach with specific national goals. Professor Jeche-Daku noted stability should reflect the economic realities of the country and also the policy goals of that country, arguing for a more nuanced perspective on the city's performance. She outlined 2 primary frameworks for managing the city, each presenting distinct advantages and risk. Low volatility regime, in which the city is allowed to float and move freely according to market forces, but the central bank's intervention to prevent sharp sudden swings against major currencies. While the other is predictable crawl, where the city is allowed to depreciate gradually over time, often at a rate aligned with the difference between domestic and international markets. Professor Jeche-Daku cautioned that a low volatility approach is only effective if the Bank of Ghana maintains enough reserves to cushion the currency. Furthermore, she warned that any predictable crawl could fail spectacularly if the market loses faith in the government's ability to stick to its target, potentially triggering a speculative run on the currency.
That was a 3 News Business Desk report. The Securities and Exchange Commission, SEC, has urged the government to consider listing cocoa on the commodity exchange to help resolve financing and pricing challenges in the sector. The call follows Cocoa Board's inability to pay farmers for delivery since November last year, a situation farmers say has harmed their livelihoods. Speaking on Business Focus, SEC's Deputy Director General Mensa Thompson said listing cocoa would increase price transparency for farmers and relieve the government of the burden of buying at predetermined prices despite volatile global market trends.
The whole idea, one, is to improve activities on the commodities exchange. So only a few crops that are currently being traded, maize, cow, peas, and all those small soya beans and those small things. And we think that the inclusion of vulnerable crops like cocoa would improve, one, the activities on the commodities exchange and help develop the commodities market. But most importantly, on the farmer side, it's going to improve price discovery. Because the whole idea of the exchange is to show that there'll be visibility. Cocoa farmers can have visibility on the prices. Currently, gold, if you look at how gold is traded, a miner wakes up every morning, checks the global price of gold, and and everybody knows what gold is trading worldwide. And so based on that, they price their gold, and whatever discount they give you, they decide and they sell their gold. Farmers must have that price discovery, the opportunity to decide on some of these things. Then people say, okay, but Cocoa Board raises syndication on the back of this cocoa, and so how is Cocoa Board going to raise this money? We are saying, look, once you list cocoa on the commodities exchange, the arrangers will come, the dealers will come.
Mensa Thompson is Deputy CEO of the Securities and Exchange Commission. Before we go, government says it plans to double the country's coconut plantation acreage by end of 2028 as part of a major push to strengthen agribusiness, boost exports and create jobs. The initiative is being led by the Office of the Presidential Initiatives on Agric and forms part of what the government describes as a broader reset of the agri sector through acreages. The following 3 Business News Desk report has more.
Speaking at a training and capacity building program, the Director of Presidential Initiative on Agribusiness and Agriculture, Dr. Peter Boamo Tokono, said the target is central to strengthen the country's agribusiness sector. Under the Coconut Value Chain Development Initiative, 3 million high-yield seedlings have already been distributed to more than 2,000 farmers across 11 regions. That has added an estimated 31,500 acres of new plantations, pushing national coverage beyond 121,000 acres. The focus is shifting from exporting raw coconut towards processing, packaging, and branding for international markets. Dr. Tokono urged farmers to embrace agribusiness models, warning that dependence on raw produce sales keeps many trapped in poverty.
Today's farmer must think like an entrepreneur, planning carefully, adding value, and targeting better markets. When you farm with knowledge and strategy, your fields increase, productivity is enhanced, and your income also grows.
Ghana is Africa's leading coconut producer and ranked among the world's top 12, supporting nearly 1.8 million livelihoods. The program includes training in modern farming, pest control, and value addition with financial support from the Ghana Exim Bank. Authorities believe the expansion could transform what they describe as Ghana's green gold, especially along the coastal belt.
That was a 3 News Desk report on Ghana targeting 180,000 hectares of coconuts by 2028. And that will be all for Business Daily on 3FM 92.7. For more business stories, please check out our website at 3news.com. My name is Grace Hamo Ajiman. Thank you for joining us. Good afternoon.